All right, and welcome to The Edge, presented by the Bluntness, where we take you behind the curtain to the cannabis universe with the top cannabis thinkers, leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs, scientists, physicians, artists, and more. I'm your host, Gregory Frye, executive editor at the Bluntness, and today I have a very special guest, the Dank Duchess. The Dank Duchess is a multifaceted artist who has chosen cannabis and hashish as her primary focus. With almost 2 decades of cannabis growing experience, including a mentorship under master hash maker Frenchie Cannoli, the Dank Duchess has maintained a fierce commitment to her art while fully immersing herself in the global cannabis industry, sharing insights, techniques, and innovations with growers and hash makers around the world. As a storyteller and media personality, the Dank Duchess has dozens of articles, how-to videos, public appearances, and educational courses on hashish to her credit. She's also pioneered her own hash-making technique called the Dutch Touch and serves as a cannabis judge for the Emerald Cup and other prestigious international competitions such as the Munsters Cup, Terp Tower International, and the Masters of Rosin in Barcelona and Copa Mexico in Mexico. You can find her at thedankduchess.com, where she offers her services on hashish consultation and education to small and large farms in the U.S. and abroad. Wow, what a bio, Duchess. You're rocking and rolling. Thank you so much
Thank you for that intro.
You mentioned, your affinity for dabs and your attraction to hash, and I wonder if for you, I think this is important, especially for a lot of cannabis newcomers, and even more experience in the space, people in the space who don't have the experience with concentrates, like in this case, hash. For you, what's the big deal between flower, let's say, and hash? It's obviously more powerful, more potent, but it's a lot of things, and I would love to hear you unpack. What is it about hash specifically?
Okay. What I love about hash, I mean, there are many things I love about hash. If we're talking about the aesthetics. So when I said I saw these lumps of chocolate and I don't like chocolate, it's true. I don't happen to like chocolate. But the type of hash that I make primarily now, because I was Frenchie Cannoli's student, is pressed hash. And the beauty of pressed hash is just, it's intoxicating, okay? So imagine the most gorgeous Hershey kiss, the skin being taut, shiny, reflecting. You can just only imagine the feelings that are going to go through you, the sensations, the flavors, all of that. That's going to happen when you have that first pull of hash. That's number one. So your tantalize with your eyes, right? Then when you break apart hash, now mind you, I'm saying this as someone who's been making hash for a while. So this is how I grew into really loving hash, right? When you break apart hash, and resin comes in so many different textures. But if it's pressed, which is my what I really like, if it's pressed and soft enough and malleable, it's like pulling the softest and yet most resilient taffy. It has a little bit of give, but you have to really coax it. You coax it and it's so nice and smooth. Okay, so now you've pulled it apart. If you're going to smoke it in a joint, or if you're going to take a dab, okay, let's say we're going to take a dab. If the resin is really good resin, that means it has the least amount of contaminants. It's dried perfectly. It's the right cultivar. When it hits the banger and it sizzles, the dance that it does in itself is mesmerizing. When you pull it in, one of the things that's really great about hash, as opposed to one of the things that's great about solventless ice water hash, as opposed to perhaps solventless rosin or BHO, which is solvent based, is what it feels like when it enters your mouth. Hash comes in and it dominates. It doesn't just like slide in and then you have to wonder where it's going on with the flavor. Full spectrum pressed THC based hash coats your mouth with flavor. It's like you can taste, you can chew it. Once it goes down, and if you're breathing properly, it goes down without any coughing, and you feel it just swelling, and then it comes back up. Different flavors when it comes back up. And when you're smoking hash, you feel it here. You know what I'm talking about. You feel it here. Then it goes behind your ears. Then it spreads. It's like you feel so magnificent. How can you not love that? And that's what hash is like for me. That's what hash is like for me. And that's the big deal. That's the big deal. Now, before I was having solventless ice water hash, and let's say you mentioned that I like the dabs. The thing about having concentrates is that the flavor is pared down to just that flavor. So as opposed to when you're smoking a joint and you're dealing with combustion, when you have it pared down to just the flavor of super lemon haze, the limonene is coming through, little bit of the pinene at the end, a little bit of gas, all of that, you're just actually tasting those flavors either linearly or in tandem, as opposed to when you're smoking flower. Yes, you get those flavors, definitely, but you get the flavor of also the combustion of the green material. And you don't get that when you're vaporizing, even vaporizing flower or vaporizing concentrates, which is what we're doing when we're taking dabs. Amazing.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm just gonna say this one thing. The experience, and then just real quick, the experience is also different. Now, mind you, I grow flower. I make hash. I put those two things together. If I want a mind expansive experience, if I want to think of all the possibilities and the perspectives, cannabis is number one. Like that's ideal. But if I want to focus, if I have an idea already and I want to focus in on it and hone in on it, definitely hash. And if you want best of both worlds, you put them together.
Well, when you were describing the experience of consuming hash and the flavor and the feeling in your face and your head,
Yes.
it really reminds me of the last time we hung out, Duchess. We were talking about this new pushes towards solventless blends and putting together some of these cultivars in a way that's maybe easier than others are doing it. What's going on there?
Well, it's not like it's not super new, because people have had the desire for orange juice, pineapple juice, and orange pineapple juice for a very long time. But what you're seeing is, as more and more people have filtered into the cannabis industry, which is great, and more people are doing concentrates, there is a push to make something new, but you don't want to wait like 3 years to make something new. So at the end of the day, great cannabis comes down to the cultivar, and the cultivar that may be created from a great breeder. So no matter how, I could call it the Dutch touch, I could be someone else doing their own technique. At the end of the day, all credit to the growers. Okay, great. The thing about breeding and then growing out and searching and all that takes a long time. A really good breeder is not putting just a male and a female and just saying, oh, look, we have a new strain, but rather is doing a lot of work to make sure to stabilize that cultivar. Some of us can't wait that long. So what is good is to know that you really like the flavor of the strawberry, know that you really like the flavor of guava, and provided that in terms of washing together, provided that the resin is similar, it will wash well together. And the reason why you say provided that the resin is similar, there's some cultivars who you will wash shorter amount of time than you would wash other cultivars. So if you're putting them together, you're going to somehow either lose out on the yield or you're going to lose out on the quality. So that's one place where people they might wash together. But then the thing about washing together is you can really mess it up. You might press together afterwards. So you've washed the guava by itself, you've washed a strawberry by itself, and then liking the smells, you might decide that you're going to press it into like a temple ball together, or go further and squish it into rosin together. All of those things, that gives phenomenal new ideas and options for the palate. It's always good. Always good.
Now, we were talking about growing earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned you were in Florida when you got your start, and you had to keep it on the down low, like a lot of legacy growers have done over the years. And obviously, Obviously, it's a completely different situation than if you're living under legal grow laws where it's legal to grow a certain amount of plants in your home.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's more people than ever in recent history living under new grow laws. A lot of people who I'm sure would love to grow a few plants, and I think they're intimidated by the learning curve.
Oh,
What,
that's
what
unfortunate.
what would you say to all these people under new grow laws who, whether they've thought about growing their own or not, what would you say to get them to think about it a little differently?
Okay, I'm going to acknowledge that it's totally natural to be a little bit like, wow, this is a whole new world. Maybe this isn't quite right for me. But growing is for everybody. Growing is for everybody because one of the things that's nice about growing is that it allows you to have this relationship with the medicine that you're going to be consuming. And best believe it's medicine across the board. If you have no ailments at all, but you smoke cannabis, not but, and you smoke cannabis and you feel just a little bit better, well, honey, that was a mood enhancer. So it's medicine across the board, okay? The relationship you have with what you put in your body really heightens the experience of having that smoke. So now you're in a place that cannabis might be legal or medical, and it just seems like there's so much that you can do. The best thing I can do is tell you that it's called weed for a reason. Weeds grow everywhere. So the biggest thing that you could do to mess up this whole thing is just overwater. That's it. Besides that, cannabis wants to grow. Cannabis has co-evolved with us, and you can do it. Pot, some soil. You don't even need fertilizer because we're not pro that because we're organic. Seeds. If you feel a little bit nervous, you can even try going with clones. You can go to your neighborhood dispensary and they will already have the plant already ready for you. So you just have to repot it. The thing about it is don't feel badly if you feel like you're going to mess up. I've been growing for a long time. I got to tell you, my first 3 years of growing weed was terrible, mainly because I didn't have the opportunity to talk to people. So that's the thing that people have right now. You have an immense opportunity to say, look at this leaf. Should it look like this? Is this a male? Is this a female? So take advantage of that and know that many people are here to help you. So please grow your own.
You've been all over the world with your cannabis work, and oh man, I'm sure you have a ton of different stories. You've seen so many different cannabis cultures. The first thing I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts on this emerging sector of cannabis tourism within the US and globally? And some of those stories that you might have from your cannabis travels abroad that you might share with us.
Sure. Okay. At the end of the day, look, we're having this connection right here. And while that's great, Greg, there is nothing like being able to reach out and actually touch someone, right? So, cannabis brings us together. So, of course, the idea of travel for communal get-togethers goes hand in hand with cannabis, and that's one of the best parts of the whole cannabis community and this growth that we have. And more minds means more innovation. So we have the opportunity at this point to constantly 24/7 be exchanging information, but once we come together, we exchange our energies at the same time, and the mastermind thinking, the understanding, the well-being, all of that skyrockets when we are together. So it's no wonder that resorts are popping up all over the world that are about cannabis and feeling good and resorting our mindset and understanding that our wellness and our health is our wealth. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it here in the United States and abroad. I have had the blessing, coming here. It's just only been 7 years, and I've been all over the country teaching about hash making, meeting up with people, sometimes just for a good party or just to lend a good ear. I think all of that is essential for the entire cannabis experience. And then on the global stage, we have a tendency to be very provincial. So let's be honest, California is just like, no one's weed matters but us. We're California. The whole world loves Cali weed. And while that's great, it is very nice and eye-opening and horizon expanding to be able to interact with other cultures and the way they've done cannabis for a long time. Because the truth of the matter is that cannabis didn't come from California. Cannabis didn't come from the United States. So when I go over to Barcelona, which somehow has become the international meeting point. It was Amsterdam for a while, but it's definitely Barcelona for the last couple of years. You meet people from everywhere, like everywhere, with different mindsets, different reasons, different emphasis, and that's the drive. Everyone I know in the cannabis industry, with the whole thing that has happened with COVID, the thing that we have talked about the most is, when can we get back generally to Barcelona so that we can just start our lives again? And that's because cannabis keeps us knitted together. When, just to be vulnerable for a second, back in 2019, when I had a mushroom trip that made me realize that I was using cannabis very disrespectfully. I was using a lot of hash to tamp down my feelings, frustration with my career, with my personal life, and whatever. And that trip, I realized that my happiest times in the last couple of years have been in Barcelona, because what happens when I get there is everybody cares about cannabis. Everybody, not all of Barcelona, that'd be a lie, but the reason why we're there is for Cannabis or some other event. It's just a meeting of the minds. And of course, there've been all kinds of good stories with those. Some of them a little bit illegal. So let me just think for a second. But let me tell you about, like, I went to Mexico a little bit less than 2 years ago to teach hash making. And it's not like such an amazing story, but this just makes me feel good. Okay, I went to Mexico, and although my family is Panamanian, I'm a first generation Panamanian American. My understanding of Spanish is spot on. That's why I can go to Barcelona and be fine. But I get very nervous about responding, or the idea of teaching in Spanish for something as particular as hash making. No, that doesn't really occur to me. So I was in Mexico to teach hash making with an interpreter whose primary language was Portuguese. But he was translating in his head Portuguese to Spanish and then explaining. And the words passed through me to him, and he was like relaying it. And like I said, I understand. And it was coming out so well with a little extra flair that was so nice. And when it was time for the students to make hash themselves, because that's how I teach, rather than just like in a lecture situation, but we're going to make hash and then you're going to make hash yourself. They were on point, and you could see the aha moments. And I live for those aha moments. Like, I just live for those. Oh, but Duchess, like, pero, for them, it was like, pero. And I was like, oh, they're getting it. And whereas I could like regale you about how I got arrested and how I beat my case and all that, the thing that really matters to me within cannabis is everybody having the opportunity to take control and get themselves smiling like this. Okay, don't want to make it seem like just smiling. I smile happily because I can determine what goes in my body. Cannabis is a super important part of it, and I can make it myself. So if I can encourage anyone to do that same thing, or making hash, which is not difficult, it really just comes down to paying attention, then that sense of independence, that's more than anything to me. Oh my God, I'm about to get emotional.
We were talking about your experience as an Emerald Cup judge, and you've done a lot of other international competitions. And I wonder if you could talk about what that experience is like, and how you even got into it, because it's every cannabis lover's dream job, I think, to be able to judge at the Emerald Cup.
I'm gonna be real honest. It has an application process. The answer to doing judging of cups, people ask me that all the time. It really is just be good at something within cannabis, and you get to ask to judge a cup. Or with Emerald Cup, you had to apply. But really, it is based on who you know, but also what you know, because you don't want to have the owner's friend, but they have no idea on how to judge a cup, and judging a cup based on how important that cup is. And there are definitely different cups. There are cups that are like, oh, you won that. okay. You could have paid for it, or the quality of the entries are just like, or there's certain cups, like, just be honest, this Emerald Cup. So although I've judged a lot of cups, nothing against the cups, this is my first time judging Emerald Cup, and it is the top of the top. Why? Every single strain that anyone is smoking anywhere in a commercial market somehow came through with Emerald Cup. It did. If y'all are smoking Skittles, that one, Emerald Cup 2014, so years ago, the first 10 slots, the person who did the Skittles won 10 slots. So all those things, the peach rings, now y'all love the papaya. So the thing about Emerald Cup is that it sets the standard, and the way that it's able to set the standard is that the people who are deciding what the new standards are so very committed. So I walked into Emerald Cup, or the idea of doing Emerald Cup, thinking it was going to be like other cups, which generally have 3 or 4 criteria. We're going on appearance, we're going on smell, we're going on taste, and most of them are these 3. Not even always effect, but these 3: appearance, smell, and taste. Most cups. However, Emerald Cup had 10 criteria to go based on. So we're talking about stability, texture, bouquet, consistency, appearance, overall complexity. I mean, all of these different things that required the judge to sit back and think. And thankfully we had COVID, don't want to say that, but thankfully we had a different format, which gave us about 5 weeks of sitting back and thinking and judging these entries. And this is 84 entries. And then we would meet for 2 hours every single week, all of us on Zoom, to just talk about it. And what that did is help inform some palates. I know in the beginning, I was really anti one particular thing, which is going to be in the top 3, but I was anti it. I wasn't getting it. And listening to another hash maker explain how it made him feel and where the flavor was, I changed the temp that I was doing the dab at, did it. Then I was like, oh my gosh, I was just so excited about it. And I keep going back to it. I still have like 1 dab of it left, just to make sure that it was as good as it hyped up to be. So the idea of doing a cup is to just have somewhat of a discerning palate that you can speak about. For me, it's hash. If it's going to be flower, that you can be able to taste the different notes. If you just think it just tastes dank, you're not going to get it. You're not going to be a judge. You have to be able to talk about, oh, I taste that gas. I taste the cherry coming in. I taste those citrus terps, and be able to describe the issues that you may have with it. Oh, this came in really strong, but was really flat at the end. So this is not going to be a winner, no matter how good it looks. So, and doing these cups can be overwhelming because there are a lot of entries. CBD is your best friend, because after a couple of entries, you come back down, CBD will bring you back down to be able to do it. But with something like Emerald Cup, where we had lots of time, it's not so crucial, as opposed to something like Masters of Rosin. Masters of Rosin is like the premier cup in Spain. Never mind Cannabis. No one cares about that. But I mean, that's going to sound so terrible, but the truth of the matter is all the hardcore people in concentrates care about things like Masters of Rosin. And Masters of Rosin gives you generally 5 days. I actually come into Barcelona 3 or 4 days early, just so I can get my kit early, just so I have enough time so that I can I can really give people, because they're putting all their effort. This is not like something cheap. They're giving 14 to 30 grams of their hard work that they could possibly sell somewhere else, but they're seeking to get some amount of validation for that hard work. And I think that part is important, and maintaining the integrity of these events is important. So I like when we have events that have no branding. So it's not like, I know that's my friend Tim or anything like that. All the jars look exactly the same, and we just put forth our honest opinion.
I got to get into that. That sounds like a lot of fun.